Welcome to Liberty FM, the podcast dedicated to all things New York Liberty. I'm Felicia, and I'm joined by my co-host, Francois. The Liberty continued their winning streak this week as they faced off against the Chicago Sky on Tuesday and the Atlanta Dream tonight. With a dominant performance by Breanna Stewart in both games, the Liberty are 3-0 in their run for the Commissioner's Cup. Francois, let's get into it.
Yeah, let's get into it. And with the New York Liberty, we could almost say that it's a tale of two cities. Like, we never know what team is going to show up. And even within some of the games that we're going to talk about, there were some disparities in terms of what we saw on the court. But let's rejoice and be happy with 2 wins. I think now it's 5 straight wins since that tough loss against Minnesota. So we gotta be happy. Like, the team is improving overall and has more chemistry. So that was definitely a positive. And so we're gonna sort of recap the last 2 games against Chicago Sky and the Atlanta Dream. And so on Tuesday they were facing the Sky, and the Sky has caused quite a lot of problems to this Liberty team. We're not going to talk about the preseason game because that doesn't count. But they were the team that gave us our first loss of the season at home, where they showed some grit and toughness that the Liberty could not cope with. And so I felt like in this game, Sandy had said that, Chicago is going to play physical, and we got to match this aggressiveness. And the first quarter was exactly that. The New York Liberty tried to play fast, and I think, like, when they have their threes that are getting in, they are a tough team to beat. And with Stewie getting on fire, like, we were off to a good start.
Yeah, this game, it was all about Breanna Stewart. Everyone contributed, but this was all about Breanna Stewart. And it was good to see because, Stewie has been, I would say, a bit quiet to the start of this season. It's been, she's done a lot in other ways. She's done the little things.
Especially defensively.
Yeah, especially defensively. Her rebounding is elite, is tremendous, but her points hasn't been that high. She still gets up there, but this night, it was her night to take control of the offense. You still had Sabrina in there with 24 points, but Stewie scored 33 points, had 14 rebounds, 3 assists, and it was just spectacular to just see Stewie in her bag. And it was great to see because she took on Chicago, and I don't think Chicago was ready for that. And I was glad to just see Stewie just get to her spots and be in rhythm and just play her game and let the game come to her. But again, I knew this would be the Stewie we would see eventually. This was not, everyone was kind of wondering, where's the Stewie from last year? Where's the MVP? But she's always been there. She's just been doing all the little things to help her teammates and get the win ultimately. It's not just about her scoring 20, 30, 40 points. It's about the team winning together. And so I was just happy to see her do well on Tuesday.
She did more than well, and especially in that first quarter. She had 2 threes. She was attacking the basket. Benijah had a free. Sabrina, I think, had 2 threes in that quarter. One to start the game with a high screen from JJ. So everything was clicking. Stewart was attacking the basket. She's been doing that a lot this season.
And give Slew her flowers.
Yeah, I think we're a little harsh on Slew, but
I know
she
sometimes,
did well.
People, talk about, should Slew start? Should she come from the bench? All these questions, but Sloot does well, I would have to say, in the first quarter especially. I think what Sandy is doing for Sloot is really helpful. And yeah, even if she starts, she takes her out a little bit early just to kind of get her enough rest. She can come back in. She's not, wiped by the time they need her again, maybe in the second quarter. And so she gets breaks. I think she's giving her more breaks, which helps Sloot. But she comes out and she does her thing, driving to the basket. I like her little give and go, and she's quick. When she takes off, if you're not on her, it's pretty hard to stop. So give Sloot her flowers, y'all.
Yeah. So, everything was good, but unfortunately with the Liberty, as I said, a tale of two cities, we never, sort of comfortable, or we can never be too comfortable with the New York Liberty. And it's funny because they keep bringing that stats every single game because it's almost too predictable. But the Liberty, first quarter and fourth quarter, they dominate. Like, I think they're like plus 80 something in the first quarter.
Yeah, I mean, they're dominant in the first and fourth quarter, but they gotta clean up
The second and third quarter.
That's where they allow teams to come back, and thus far the teams they faced, they've been able to, outside of the first Chicago game and the Minnesota game, they've been able to come back and take control of the game when they've allowed other teams to kind of gain momentum in the second and third quarter. They really have to clean that up, because against those tougher teams, if you let them take the lead, they're going to catch that momentum and you're not getting it back that easy. And so that's something that I know they'll work through, and they are working on it. I know they're aware of it because they talk about it so much. But it's something that has to translate to the court. Like, you can't have Chicago, where you beat them in the first quarter 31-15, and then they come back in the second quarter and beat you 33-18. Like, there's something there where you really have to go for the jugular, and you have to stay on their neck. You cannot let these teams, because it only gets harder. You're going to face Connecticut soon. You're going to face Vegas soon. This is where you got to take it to these teams now, so that when you get into these tougher matchups, you're prepared to handle, especially the second and third quarter.
Yeah, definitely. And before we focus on the player from the Chicago Sky that really made a difference, for the Sky to come back, let's look at the shortcomings of the Liberty in that quarter. And that's the thing that I really struggle to understand. It's like, why don't you keep doing the things that are working so well? And I think the Liberty, the problem is that once like the freezers start clicking and coming from everywhere, they settle too much for freeze.
Yeah.
And you're not gonna be able to make freeze like the whole game, like, or maybe just like one of those nights where everything gets in throughout the whole game. But like, I felt like in the second quarter they were like, oh, okay, we had a good shooting in the first quarter, let's try to continue that. And they were settling for too many quick frees, not finding the mismatches. Like, when they tried Benaja at the post, like, there was nobody that could stop her, but they didn't really do that. Stewart that could attack the basket didn't do it as much. And then the foul troubles from JJ once again.
Yeah.
Now, we could also argue that the ref were, a little too picky on those fouls. But once again, foul trouble. And then all of a sudden, Chicago is coming back. Or you're giving them a chance, because the Liberty, I don't think they scored for like 6 or 7 minutes or something. So
yeah, I mean, once you get JJ out, it's tough, because JJ is important. She's huge for this team. Obviously, this was Stewie's night, but JJ's also important, very important in the paint. She is key. And so, for Chicago, for some reason, they get under JJ's skin and she ends up in foul trouble. She gets in her, her moods, and, she's not happy, but she has to figure out a way to get out of it, even when teams, get to her and they may be getting a couple foul calls. You can't let that get to you so much and start to play with you and your game. And so, they just managed to get JJ out the game for a bit. And, obviously, again, trying to figure out why they end up not doing what they did in the first quarter. Or, you also have to give these teams credit too, the opposing teams like Chicago. They're going to make adjustments after the first quarter. You have timeouts, you got huddles. Like, they're going to make the adjustment. And I don't know if it's the Liberty don't make an adjustment. Not, it's almost like they're not ready for the adjustments that, other teams will bring, and they still try to play the same way. Yeah. When an adjustment is made, and maybe now the Liberty need to make their own adjustments. And, it always seems like second and third quarter, the Liberty are on the back foot and they have to like fight to get back into it. And then the fourth quarter, it starts clicking again. So, there seems to be some sort of disconnect that I think they will figure out. And hopefully they'll figure that out sooner rather than later so that they can really roll into the season and, as they face the tougher teams, be able to handle it.
Yeah, but the difference maker was definitely Kennedy Carter, Hollywood Carter.
Yeah.
She was unstoppable. So she has been like the sort of like sixth player coming from the bench and just like bring that spark and energy that could make a difference. And the New York Liberty had no answer.
She's quick.
For Kennedy Carter.
She is quick. When she takes off, times where either Sabrina was on her or it's hard. Even for Benijah, it was tough. You're like, anyone that's on her, the minute she takes off, it's hard to keep up. Like, she'll beat you real easy. And she just has good handles with the ball as well. And so, yeah, she scored, 15 points in that first half? She only had 16 for the game. But, yeah, that first half was crucial where she helped her team get back into it. And she is that spark for Chicago. Once she gets going, everyone around her gets going. And she is definitely that dog and that spark for the team that keeps them going and keeps them fighting in games. So kudos to her. I know there's a lot of previous controversy. We're not going to get into any of that because that's over and done with. But, she's playing her game.
Yeah, we have to talk about basketball, right? I know that, all the drama and all the stuff that some people focus on are good for clickbaits and viewership. But we're here to talk about basketball and how talented those ladies are. And Kennedy Carter has bounced around in this league, being drafted with the Atlanta Dream, a few controversies and challenges. Fitting in that team with a coach and a teammates. Same thing with the LA Sparks, struggling to find a role in that team, and she kind of bounced back, playing well in the Chinese league. But I feel like with Teaspoon, it's definitely the perfect fit for her. There's not a lot of expectation for the Chicago Sky this season, so she could just really ball out and be herself. Mm-hmm. And so I was, even though I'm not rooting particularly for the Sky, I was happy that she was doing well because with all the controversy surrounding the game against Indiana, it was nice to, get back into basketball and remember that she's a really talented player. And unfortunately for us Liberty fans, I had some nightmarish flashbacks when I saw like Sabrina kind of struggling and being all over the place against her. Of those games against the Aces with the Kelsey Plums and Jackie Young and Chelsea Gray. So, as much as like Sabrina has actually really improved this season defensively, it was sometimes a little tough to watch against Kennedy Carter. But she won't be the only one that will have some of her ankle, broken and struggling on defense against such a quick player. But yeah, it was definitely something that, gave me a few scares, but I think the second half we were able to rectify that.
Yeah, coming back in the second half, I do feel like, the Liberty locked in a little bit better. For the third quarter, they still lost that quarter just by 2 points, but again, it was more of a battle. And just better than the second quarter, but they still had a little bit of a road to go to really seal this win, and they did that in the fourth quarter. But I think for them, Stewie was still getting her shots. I think for Stewie, she had to take control of this game. She had to have her imprint on this game, and she did that, and she was everywhere on the court, and so that just also helps the team. And Sabrina also, she also contributed in a great way. And yeah, Sabrina has gotten better defensively and offensively. Is she going to be the defensive player of the year? Is she going to be the best defender out there? No. But she has gotten much better. I give her that. She's not, go on the best player of the opposing team. We know that's going to be tough for her. But each year I would say that she's working on it and she's getting better. So flowers have to go to Sabrina as well. And also even Sabrina driving to the basket. I love watching her. She still has the 3 ball, but I love watching her drive to the basket and have that floater. And when it's working, and she is not afraid. And so I appreciate it just to see this new shot selection that she's been working on and seeing it just, on the court and come alive on the court. And it's so crazy because, that reel that we had of her in practice before the season started, and it got a lot of buzz, a lot of...
Go and check it out.
Yeah. It was, some negative buzz because I don't know why people were in their feelings about it. Because it was just practice. And so obviously the people they're practicing against, you can't go hard at them. It's practice, guys. But even seeing her there and now seeing it translate to the game is great because it is helping her get better. And you see her doing that against her opponents.
Yeah, and I don't think she necessarily had the quickest first step in the league. She was able to do so many other things really at a high level, but first step wasn't necessarily the quickest. But like this season, I feel like she's much quicker.
Yeah, she's definitely quicker.
And she often, like, when she goes one-on-one, I don't remember a lot of players that were really able to stop her. And when she starts getting into the paint, she goes even for the infamous floater that you were asking all season long last year. But not only does she have a floater, but she not afraid to attack the basket. And she hasn't been blocked that many times this year compared to previous seasons. Because she's quicker and strong physically. So
and she's making better decisions with her ball handling. And so she's making better decisions even at the rim, and so or going towards the basket. And so I think as she improves, she's working on improving each year and being that all-around player, that she's not going to just be your 3-point specialist, that she has other things in her bag, and she's definitely developing her bag, and you can see the growth. And I think each year she's going to be up there, offensively for sure, and defensively she'll get better. Again, that may not be her forte, offense and things like that, or more her speed, but she's going to get better defensively. And these are the things that she's working on. And you see it translating to the court as she works on it in the off season so that she's ready for each new season.
Yeah. And so the fourth quarter was a big turnaround, and the Liberty literally dominated that quarter. 23-9, and some of the things that really helped was the zone defense. Sandy Brandillo said that their zone defense really helped them, that it kept the guards out of the paint, and we could keep an eye on Mabry and contain the post well when they change the defense, and when we can score, we can help the defense get set. The Chicago Sky, I think, one of their weaknesses is the 3-point shooting. They obviously have Mabry and Dana Evans, who are great shooters, but the other players on the team are not necessarily like 3-point shooters. Kennedy is more like someone getting into the paint. You got Injuries and Cardoso, who are not going to shoot threes and are going to stay in the paint. Diamond DeShield, who's more a mid-range shooter. So I think that once they sort of establish the zone defense, which is not something that they Liberty do often, but once you have like this advantage and knowing that the other team is not necessarily a great shooting team, you gotta use that to your advantage. And I was really happy to see that Mabry, who did so much damage to us in the first matchup, was pretty well contained. So there was that defensively, and then offensively, they were able to really, find the weaknesses of Chicago and attack that. And Stewie, I think we've discussed it so far this season that, she's a very good shooter. She's an all-around player, but a tendency of sometimes taking way too many threes. Yeah. And since the playoff of last year, her shooting percentage, especially at the 3-point line, hasn't been the greatest. I was looking at the stats so far. It's her worst shooting season when it comes to 3-point percentage. And so I was happy to see that even though she had some great shots in the first quarter, she mostly attacked the basket in the fourth quarter. And she said that she was getting great looks and was getting downhill. And knowing that it was back and forth, she was trying to do whatever she could to get the next level. And whenever there's a small on me, I have to finish that. And that's exactly what she did tonight.
Yeah, she definitely attacked. And I love to see that from Stewie, because the one thing I don't want to see her doing is trying to settle for a three. And there's plenty of mismatches on Stewie that night. And she attacked, and she had great success against the Sky. But yeah, her 3-point shooting, I think it will come. It's there, but this year, so far to start the season, it's just not in a good place right now. But, again, shooters shoot. So eventually it will get better, I think. But her bread and butter is driving to the basket or her fadeaway shot. Like, I don't know how many times as I watch her that I'm just like, this is where you need to live. Yeah. Like, the 3-point shot needs to be, for me, a last resort with Stewie. Like, yes, I know you got it, and obviously you take the shot if you're wide open. Okay, fine. But don't settle for that shot. Like, your bread and butter is driving to the basket. No one, one-on-one, not many people can take you. Not many people can. It's very few. Yeah. I think only, like, I don't know if 2-3 people may come to my mind. I'm not even going to say their names, but really, not many people can handle her going to the basket one-on-one. So she needs to keep doing that and keep driving while she is playing against these teams.
Yeah, I mean, at top of my mind, I think that Asia Wilson is probably the only player that can play toe-to-toe with her and kind of match the... I
only had I had Asia and I had Alyssa Thomas. The runners up in the MVP race. I think they're the only ones that are strong enough and talented and really, like, just the physicality that they can bring to Stewie may disrupt that, but
it takes greatness to stop greatness, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Those top 3 players that were so close last year in the MVP race, they are the only ones that can really stop each other. So, and Chicago, unfortunately for them, they didn't have that, and the Liberty made them pay for it. And I think I saw a stat on social media. I don't know if it's correct, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's accurate. But someone was saying that that the ESPN play-by-play showed that the Liberty held the Chicago Sky to just 1 field goal in the fourth quarter. And considering that the final score in the fourth quarter was 23-9, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. So that was like a big crumble for the Sky, and it ended in a really weird way. Yeah. With a double technical for injuries that we could have done without, especially with all the controversy, the fake controversy, I would say, lately surrounding the WNBA.
I would have to say 2 things. The refs, again, in this league can be really frustrating. And, you got to learn the refs that you're around. I think some are way more sensitive than others. Angel didn't do anything that warranted a double tech. That was not, if you want to give her a tech, fine. But players go at refs all the time. And I don't know what she said. She said something that gave her a tech, but to wave it off as you're walking away, that shouldn't warrant a second tech. And the WNBA rescinded the second tech the next day. Exactly. So I think even the league realized, that was unnecessary. But in the moment, it's just, if this was a pivotal point in the game, like say this game was a lot tighter, like say it was tied, or you just took out a key player for the Chicago Sky. Now, granted, yes, I want the Liberty to win, but like again, if this was a tight situation, you just took out a key player, a key defender, someone who's constantly getting rebounds and fighting for rebounds at the rim. So it was a wild ending. It was just way too soft of a call, in my opinion. And we, as I say, we need better refs.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? With more scrutiny around the league, people and those new fans are going to start noticing those refs that we've been complaining for so many years. But now with more eyes into the league, they might have to think about how to better equip and train the referees so that they don't become the story, and that we could just focus on the greatness of those players. So yeah.
And can we just? I'm not going to get into the previous controversy, but I would like to share.
Yes.
How much I love Stewie and the question she got.
Oh yeah. Well, we know
regarding said controversy and how tired everyone is of hearing about this or being asked about it. And even for her talking about the physicality of the game, I loved her response, but the lead up to that response was fantastic.
Yeah, check it out on social media.
Eye roll. The tapping the table, putting the sheet away, the sheet of paper away, and just she's like, you could tell she was preparing herself, because I think initially she had other words she wanted to say and realized, you know what, I'm on camera. Let me be professional. Let me measure my words here. But her initial body language told you all you need. It gave us all we needed to know. That everyone's tired of it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was personal. I mean, Jackie Powell, we gotta give a lot of props to Jackie Powell. We love following what she's doing, covering the Liberty, and she always asks very thoughtful questions. But she's the one that sort of trigger, should I say, the reaction from Stewart by asking the questions surrounding the debate about physicality in the league. But it had nothing to do with Jackie Powell. I think that you could tell that Breanna Stewart has been frustrated by this ongoing debate, especially with the media that were not talking about the WNBA before and all of a sudden have an interest. But it seems like the only thing they talk about is like this supposed drama or things that don't really have anything to do with basketball, or if they do, they kind of like blow it out of proportion. So I think it has been building up inside Stewart, and she's like, okay, like, let me say something, because it's like,
and she gave a great response. The one thing she said, no one is going to give you anything easy in this league. Like, it's hard being a rookie. It's hard when, as a rookie, you are going to have a target on your back. All the rookies do. Yeah. I think the cameras are shining the brightest on one rookie in particular, but all the rookies are getting it. Like, if you watch the other games, and you could tell they're not watching the other games. They're not caring about the other stuff that's going on with the other rookies, whether I don't know, Angel Reese getting clotheslined in the game. And if she landed wrong, that could have been her season right there. Yeah. Like, or there's just so much else going on in games that a hip check does not warrant a week's worth of talking about it, and people in the media and congressmen, and just it's nonsense, really. Yeah. It really is. And so I'm glad that Stewie gave that concise answer, because it is true. You're not going to get anything easy. It's tough, but it builds that toughness within you. Like, if you want to play for any professional sport, when you are a rookie in any, whether men or women, it's going to be tough. You have to adjust. You have to learn, and also relearn some things, and unlearn some bad habits you might have had in college and at other levels. And so this is a whole different field, a whole different playing field, and it's going to be tough, but they'll be fine. They'll get through this year. Every rookie and that you see come through that's successful now, they didn't have great rookie seasons. I think the only person that I can recall having a really great rookie season is Candace Parker.
Mm-hmm. I mean, she was one of a kind. So
yeah, but so from the time Candace entered to now, like, can't really go and say like, yeah, this person had a fit. Like,
yeah,
Candace is one of a kind. So it's not really. They'll be fine, y'all. They're gonna be fine.
Yeah. So the New York Liberty got the job done and had the win 88-75. Oh, it should have been a 10-point game, but there was an assassin free at the end, and
Sab.
Yeah, but before like people jump on that and be like, oh, she disrespected the game by scoring when the game was over. Listen. This is the Commissioner's Cup, and it's the same thing as the in-season tournament in the NBA. Points differential and the number of points you score are important. Yeah, so at first I was like, wait, why is she taking the shot? And then I remember right away that, oh yeah, it's because of the points differential and the number of points. And like Sabrina would never usually take a free like that when the game is over. But you could tell like she's like, no, we're trying to keep our Commissioner's Cup, and so yeah, she got that killer free at the end, and the New York Liberty won 88-75. So 2 days later, which is tonight as we record the podcast, they were playing against the Atlanta Dream. Now the good thing is that now with charter flights, the New York Liberty were able to fly, to Atlanta on Tuesday night, right after the Chicago Sky game, which allowed them to, even though they probably arrive in Atlanta late, to have a good night of sleep and already be in Atlanta on Wednesday to relax a little bit and train and get ready for the Thursday night game. And I was kind of like sort of intrigued by the matchup against Atlanta. Because it's still a fairly young team, up-and-coming team. On paper, they have a lot of great individual talents, but it has kind of like, they have kind of struggled at times to fully click. They did make the playoff last year, but were not able to compete against the Dallas Wings. So I'm kind of always intrigued by this team, but not really knowing how far they could go. And so I was really looking forward to that matchup because I felt like it wasn't going to be necessarily an easy game. And to start with, like, the game was a little weird. Like, both teams were like not scoring baskets at all. Like their field goal percentage was not good. And the Liberty gave way too many chances for Atlanta to stay in the game with all those turnovers, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was a brick party to start, really. I mean, both teams were...
We saw ATL fans standing up for, like, quite sometimes, because, usually fans stand up until the first basket, and they're like...
It took a minute or two
before
they got there, but...
boy, sit down. Like,
they finally got there. It was definitely a brick party on both sides of the court. A lot of just wildness, I would say, going on. And the turnovers, I forgot to mention this even in the previous game, but that is something that for the Liberty, they really got to clean up. You know, I know they're winning games, but the turnovers, you have 14 turnovers tonight. They tend to stay in double digits. And I'm just like, you got it. You're lucky that for this game,
they didn't.
Atlanta didn't capitalize on those turnovers because, I think Atlanta only scored like 4 points off of the 14 turnovers that the Liberty had. And so it's just not like it could have been way worse. This game could have been very different. But yeah, some of these turnovers were just silly, just not the communication. I think that just dealt with communication on the court as well. Yeah. But it was also silly for Atlanta. They definitely had their miscues as well with turnovers later in the game. But yeah, the Liberty really, they have to be able to protect the ball better. And there are just some times where I'm not sure what they're thinking in the middle of the game or as the game gets going, but sometimes these passes are not, like, especially if the person you're passing it to is not paying attention, not ready, not like, there's always something, and it comes down to the communication within the Liberty. Yeah,
I mean, I think in the first quarter they had 5 turnovers, but luckily Atlanta didn't capitalize and didn't score any points out of those 5 turnovers in the first quarter. So We were really grateful that at the end of the quarter we
Yeah.
up, I think by 5, I think if I'm not mistaken,
Three.
3,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, it was kind of like a weird first quarter.
Mm.
And then Atlanta, they were really struggling offensively, with the exception of Alicia Gray, who was the player that I was expecting, to have a great performance against the Liberty. For the other players, shots were not getting in. Ryan Howard, who is the star of the team with Alicia Gray, was kind of struggling from the field. Tina Charles, a legend of the game, was struggling against the physicality of
Yeah.
Jonquil Jones. I felt like Cheyenne Parker didn't really get the ball that much. And then you only had like aerial powers that would bring that spark and that energy coming from the bench. So, a little slow to start to begin with. But second quarter, I felt like the Liberty were better when on transition,
Yeah.
when they were really fast, like having fast break and really upping the tempo. They were very successful at it because you have tall players that can run fast. JJ and Stewie can run and pretty good with ball handling and layup and attacking the basket. So I felt like once they started doing that, things started to get a little bit better.
Yeah, again, this was Stewie's night. 25 points, 10 rebounds. She led all scorers in this game. And yeah, with Stewie's length, you can get her a pass, and she's probably more than likely going to come up with it. There are a couple of miscues, yes, early on. But yeah, once they got into the rhythm and they sped Atlanta up a little bit too, which also helped the Liberty. And kudos to the Liberty. They won each quarter this
Yeah,
time. They won
which is
all
rare,
which is rare, but they won all their quarters. It wasn't pretty because I think for both teams the shooting percentages went way down. It started in the first quarter. It got better a little bit throughout the game, but yeah, the percentages were definitely down. And tonight the Liberty lived in the paint. They got the three ball up a few times
yeah.
and were successful at times. But yeah, most of their points it was in the paint. So
Which I'm fine with, because I do believe that, even though last year we had a tremendous 3-point shooting season, I feel like this season we have like really forced and settled way too much at the 3-point line.
yeah.
So yes, they did make some of those threes and they had a little run as well in the third quarter, making a couple of threes in a row. But I really like the fact that yes, they did attack the paint way more than usual, and that was great. We forgot to mention that for this game, unfortunately, Courtney Vandersloot was out for personal reasons, so our thoughts are with Sluty as she's dealing with personal stuff. We hope that it's not too serious. And then Niara Sabali was still out from that back injury that she sustained against the Washington Mystics, and because they're playing so many games, I think Sandy is trying to be very cautious with her because you have to think long term.
Yeah.
So the rotations were slightly different than usual, but what has been working since Niara Sabali's injury is that lineup with Fiebich, Kennedy Burke. Breanna Stewart, Leonie, and Sabrina Ionescu. And I have to say that I was really happy that Leonie Fiebich had a really good game overall. She has shown potential like defensively, but offensively was the part where she has been struggling so far this season, especially from the 3-point line, and that's always been one of her strengths. So I was really happy that she was able to do so many things.
Yeah, she played the most of the bench players tonight. 22 minutes, 8 points, 9 rebounds. 3 of 7 shooting, 2 of 4 from the 3-point line. It's good to see her going, and it just builds confidence. I'm sure it's very different. It's almost like she doesn't have the same game as Marine Johannes, but it is different when a player comes from overseas. They're used to what it's like overseas, and I think she played for Spain.
Yeah, she was a two-time MVP in the Spanish league.
Yeah, and so it's different, over there. The lights are not as bright as they are here, and coming to New York, there can be a lot of pressure, a lot of just expectations that you may put on yourself, even if the team isn't necessarily putting that on you. You put it on yourself because you want to perform well, and this is a big stage, and so I think tonight she relaxed into it more. She's getting used to just being in the rotation with the team and getting those reps, because I think once she just settles in and is comfortable, she can make those shots. She can make those good decisions, and she was super helpful on the boards for Liberty.
Yes.
Her length as well. It's interesting because I forget that she's 6'4".
She's 6'4". She's the same height as Asia Wilson.
Yeah, and I'm just like, I forget how tall she is and just how useful she is under the basket as well. And to have that, I think to have that length for the Liberty is so important, because that was something we talked about last year, how it was just really Stewie and JJ. And now you have someone else that has that length. And you also have other, even when you think about Kennedy Burke and I'll say this all the time. I think you need to play Marquisha Davis a little bit more, just a little bit. Like, bring her in, see what she can do. I think she can give something, but she definitely also has the length, and she's also quick.
Yeah.
Especially in her lateral move, she is fast. And when I think about players that people like Fiebich or Sabrina and others can't keep up with, I'm like, Marquisha can keep up with them. She might not be your shooter on the court, but she can keep up with some of these players. And so, again, they definitely, kudos to their bench tonight, that everyone pretty much contributed. And I'm just happy to see Fiebich get points, get her time in there, and also seeing Kennedy Burke contribute, which was also really good. And she's also quick with her hands, getting steals, disrupting plays, and I really think she needs to get more minutes too. And with Sabali out and, trying to protect her back, especially for the long haul, she may be out another game or two, who knows. But I understand it. You need her for the whole season. We can't just sacrifice it for one game, coming up or, so I can understand why they may need her to stay out a little longer.
Yeah, I definitely feel like, out of all the players they recruited this offseason, I was the most excited about Leonie Fiebich and Kennedy Burke, because they are very versatile players, players that have established themselves in Europe, to give them a chance to be in the WNBA. And yes, I think that, it's been, progression, because, they were playing in Europe not that long ago. So, not a lot of time for them to prepare themselves. Kennedy Burke didn't really play in the preseason and spent a good chunk of the training camp resting from the season in Europe. Fiebich arrived after the training camp and had very little time to just figure things out, the system, the teammates, the fatigue and everything. But what they offered to the team is something we didn't have last year. And I like the fact that Fiebich, like, at the beginning, her shots were not getting in, but she find other ways to contribute, and especially defensively with, height. She made it really difficult, because it's very unusual to have a 6'4" athlete that, plays at the guard position and can guard, those players. So she made, Ariel Powers and Alicia Gray's life and Ryan Orwell's life a little difficult. Getting rebounds. I like the fact that she was going after those rebounds on the offensive end, because I feel like the Liberty don't always think about going to that rebound, offensive rebound. So that was great. And then once those things started to click, I felt like, she was a little more comfortable and relaxed on offense. And, 6'4" that can shoot free, there's not going to be a lot of people that can really disturb your shot when they try to close the gap on you and try to put their hand to, disturb your shooting. So that was great. And then Kennedy Burke, I like the fact that she didn't care what you were doing on her on defense. She would attack the basket. She could shoot threes, but I like the fact that she was aggressive today, and they rarely stop her. And defensively, she's a very good ball stealer. So she would often slam the ball out of your hands. So that was definitely something positive. And so, third and specifically fourth quarter, I wasn't really afraid of Atlanta making a comeback. It felt like the New York Liberty were really in control, and that was really good to see. So in the end, it was a fairly comfortable win for the Liberty, 78-61 plus 17. That's another good differential for the Commissioner's Cup. So at the moment on the East Coast, we have the leads with 3 wins and 0 losses. But Saturday,
the big game on Saturday.
The big game on Saturday against the Connecticut Sun, the only undefeated team so far this season in the WNBA. And let's just not, kid ourselves. The biggest test so far in the season of the New York Liberty, even though we had 2 losses and we were kind of afraid of that matchup against the Minnesota Lynx. The Connecticut Sun is the top team in the league, and it's going to be the biggest matchup so far.
They got to stay locked in. Yeah. They got to stay together. If they don't, Connecticut will pick them apart like Minnesota picked them apart. And it could be worse, because I think watching Connecticut in these games against other teams, they are definitely on pace to win it all if they could keep this level and no injuries. If everybody can stay healthy and you keep your primary folks. Because I think for them, having everyone back, everyone's healthy, they're all playing together. Dejanay Carrington is balling out too. She has provided a big help to them. Duana Bond, the whole lineup is stacked. And so can the Liberty beat them? Yes. But they can't have lapses. Like if the Liberty has any lapses like they do, especially in the second and third quarter, that is a team that can take the lead and they'll be able to hold it. They'll be able to hold that lead defensively and not give it up. And so, for the Liberty, that's something that I think they're going to have to let the game come to them. They're going to have to stay poised. They're going to have to stay focused and stay together and quick. Because, Connecticut's also quick too. And so they're going to have to play just as quick and keep that ball popping. And so it's going to be very important to not, I think they'll come out strong. I think they will, but it's just about keeping it there the entire game.
Yeah, first of all, it's going to be a physical game. We know that Connecticut is a very physical team. They're aggressive on defense. They have this tendency of blitzing the point guard. So if Stewart is still out for this game, we don't know. Sabrina will be the PG, and she's gonna have to expect, a lot of, trapping, blitzing, and so she will have to make sure she gives the ball quickly or, gang through those traps.
You also may see Stewie bring the ball up quite a bit. Like she brought the ball up quite a bit tonight too.
Yeah, and then last season, where we had the advantage was with Jonquel Jones because Breanna Jones was out for the season, and I think the key player in all the different matchups the Liberty had last year against the Connecticut Sun was Jonquel Jones.
Yeah,
she was the dominant force in the playoffs that allowed the Liberty to beat the Connecticut Sun. But this time around, Breanna Jones is back, so it's gonna be interesting to see.
And she's also doing well.
Yeah. But also, they know each other very well because they played together for many seasons in Connecticut. Yeah. So that's going to be interesting to see how that matchup will play out. And the other key is obviously Alyssa Thomas. What was great last year with Stephanie White was the fact that she put her as the point guard of the team. And she has the ability to, really get the game into another level by, her passing game is incredible. And when Connecticut plays fast, we know that the Liberty sometimes struggles on transition defense. So that's going to be another key for the Liberty to really make sure that they're really out, really out there in transition, because you're gonna have people running. You're gonna have Carrington running. The Warner Bonner is, still very quick and shoot threes. So those are things that, we're excited to see, and hopefully that the Liberty can sustain that matchup.
Yeah, and also this is going to be a back-to-back. They play Connecticut on Saturday. They're going to play Washington on Sunday. Yes, on paper they should beat Washington especially, but coming off a back-to-back, and I'm sure they're going to expend all energy in this Connecticut game. They're going to probably give it their all, as they should. But I am, I don't know that they haven't had really a back-to-back yet this season.
It will be their first back-to-back, yeah.
So, we got to see how they operate. The bench is going to be key, probably more so in the Washington game.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I wouldn't mind actually seeing like more of the starting five against Connecticut, and then give more opportunities to the bench in the second game.
Yeah.
No disrespect to the Mystics, but I think that, by playing more of the bench against the Mystics, you could still get the work done, and really trying to have almost like a playoff game where the starters play more time, and see if they can, match the physicality of the Connecticut Sun. So great game ahead. We know that some of the Liberty fans will be at the game because the New York Liberty offer a package to bring fans to the game. So it will be exciting to have some of the fans out there. But we'll be there to cover the game. We'll be staying in New York, but we'll be covering this weekend with the two games against the Sun and the Mystics. Quite a lot of exciting things ahead, and hopefully by the end of the week, that we would secure the first spot for the Eastern Conference to get to the Commissioner's Cup final. So thank you so much, Guy, for listening to our podcast. As always, we're really grateful that you take time of your day to listen to us. But as we always say, Felicia,
let's go Liberty!